The arrival of the fiercest aliens. The galaxy had seen many wars, but none as brutal as the ones caused by the Zorath. They were called the fiercest aliens known to exist. Entire fleets feared them. Entire planets whispered their name in terror. Their warriors stood taller than humans, their eyes glowing with a fire that spoke of endless battles. Their claws could tear through steel, and their voices were like thunder in the dark. When a Zorath warship appeared, other species ran or begged for mercy. And yet, in the middle of their endless power and fear, a strange thing happened. Something no one could have imagined. The fiercest aliens in the galaxy, the very monsters who had broken empires, began to send their children to humans. They did not send them as hostages, and not as prisoners, but as children who needed protection. It began on the quiet human colony of Arden 5. The planet was small, filled with farmers and miners. People there lived simple lives. They did not expect warships to appear in their sky. They did not expect the Zorath to land. On the third night of the harvest season, alarms echoed across the colony. A shadow fell across the fields. The ground shook as a massive Zorath ship descended. Humans gathered, trembling. They expected death. They expected their homes to burn. Mothers pulled their children close. Men carried rifles they knew were useless. Every heart beat with fear, but when the ship doors opened, there was silence. Instead of fire and destruction, towering Zorath warriors stepped out. Their armor was black like the void, their weapons sharp and humming with energy. The humans prepared for the end. Then something strange happened. One of the fierce aliens knelt. His claws touched the dirt gently, and behind him stepped out smaller figures. Alien children, their eyes wide, their bodies fragile compared to their warrior parents. They looked almost innocent. The leader of the warriors raised his voice. His words were translated through a deep metallic device. "Humans," he said, "we bring you our children." The humans froze. No one understood. Was it a trick? Were the Zorath mocking them? The leader continued, "The galaxy knows us as Deathbringers. But even we have what we cannot lose. These children are our blood, our future, and only you, humans, can protect them." Gasps spread through the human crowd. The soldiers lowered their rifles in shock. A human elder stepped forward, his hands shaking. You want us to guard them?" he asked. The alien warrior nodded slowly. "No weapon can keep them safe as you can. We have seen how you protect your young. You protect even those who are not your own. You risk yourselves for the smallest life. This, we cannot do. Only humans can." The air grew heavy. The people of Arden 5 looked at each other, confusion mixed with fear. These were the fiercest warriors alive. Why would they trust fragile humans with what was most precious to them? At that moment, a scene unfolded that would be remembered for centuries. One of the alien children stumbled forward, scared and shivering. A human woman bent down instinctively, reaching out her arms. The child, though alien in appearance, rushed into her embrace as if it were natural. The crowd gasped again. The Zorath warrior bowed his head. His thunderous voice rumbled. "This is why we came." For the first time, the humans saw not monsters but parents. They saw fear in the eyes of the fiercest aliens. Fear not of battle, but of losing their young. The night passed with tension. The children were left under human care. Some colonists protested, afraid it was a trap, but others saw the truth. The Zorath had chosen humans for something no other species could do: protect the innocent without question. As dawn rose, the colony was forever changed. No longer just farmers and miners. They had become guardians. Guardians chosen by the most feared warriors in the galaxy. Yet whispers of doubt filled the air. Why humans? Why now? What danger could be so great that even the fiercest aliens placed their children in human hands? The answer waited beyond the stars. And soon, humanity would learn the cost of being chosen. The reason behind the trust. The humans of Arden 5 could not sleep that night. They gathered in their homes, whispering about the strange event. Outside, alien children slept under human roofs. their soft breathing filling the silence of a planet that once feared destruction. No one understood why the fiercest race in the galaxy would trust fragile humans. The answer did not come immediately. It came slowly, like a story carried on the wind. It began with a tale from the front lines of war, a tale that had spread through alien stars, whispered in places where even the strongest feared to speak. Years before the landing on Arden V, a great battle had shaken the galaxy. The Zorath fought against another ruthless empire. Their armies clashed, burning planets to ash on one ruined world. Smoke covered the skies, cities crumbled, and rivers boiled. In the chaos, a single human medic had been left behind with a small rescue team. This medic was no warrior. He carried no gun. His only weapons were his hands, his voice, and the stubborn will to heal. As he searched through the ruins, he heard the cries of a child following the sound. He found something unthinkable. A Zorath child, small, wounded, and alone. The medic's team froze in fear. "It's one of them," a soldier whispered. "Leave it. It's their spawn." But the medic shook his head. "No," he said. "It's just a child." And without hesitation, he lifted the wounded alien into his arms. The child trembled, his body weak, his eyes glowed faintly, filled with pain. The medic carried him through fire and rubble, shielding him with his own body. He bandaged the wounds, fed the child from his own rations, and when enemy forces attacked, he threw himself in front to protect the small life he had found. The story should have ended there, with the medic's death. But fate twisted differently. A squad of Zorath warriors found them, their weapons ready to kill the human intruder, but what they saw stopped them. There was the medic, bloody and exhausted, yet still shielding their child with his arms. The warriors did not strike. Instead, they lowered their weapons. Their leader stepped forward, looking into the human's tired eyes. In that moment, something impossible happened. The fiercest aliens saw compassion from a species they once thought weak. They saw a protector, not an enemy. The medic's act was told again and again. It spread like wildfire across Zorath clans. "Humans," they whispered. "Protect even those who are not their own. They risk their lives for children, even the children of their enemies." From that day, the Zorath carried a new belief. They could fight better than anyone. They could kill better than anyone. But when it came to children, no one in the galaxy could match humans. Humans had something no weapon could create. Heart, back on Arden V, the colonists slowly began to hear pieces of this tale from the alien leader who had brought his children. His deep voice rumbled like storms as he spoke. "We are strong in battle, but we are weak in mercy. We know how to conquer, but we do not know how to protect the innocent, you humans. You do this without thinking. You protect the small, the helpless, even when it costs you everything." The colonists listened in silence. Some wept, for they remembered how, even in their small village, humans would risk everything for their young. A farmer once carried a sick child for miles in a storm. A miner had lost his arm saving a child from a machine. To humans, this was natural, but to the Zorath, it was a miracle. The children themselves were proof. Though alien in form, they clung to human hands. They smiled at human kindness. They cried in human arms. And they slept peacefully when a human voice told them stories. For the first time, the people of Arden V began to see the truth. This was no trick, no trap. The fiercest aliens truly trusted them. Still, doubts remained. Why now? Why send their children away? What threat could be so terrible that even the Zorath warriors admitted their limits? The leader of the warriors left them with a warning. His voice carried across the colony square, shaking every building with its weight. "Protect them well, humans, for shadows rise beyond the stars. An enemy comes who will strike at the young. An enemy even we cannot face alone." Fear spread again, but alongside it came something stronger: resolve. The humans of Arden V looked at each other and knew. Whatever danger waited among the stars, they would not let harm touch the children placed in their care. As the sun set, the humans stood watch outside their homes. Rifles in hand, children played inside, laughing. their voices mixing with the sound of alien giggles. For a moment, the galaxy's fiercest warriors could rest. For a moment, the future was safe in human hands. But the humans did not know how. Soon the warning would come true. They did not know how heavy the cost of being guardians would be. The stars beyond Arden 5 were already moving, carrying the shadow of war closer with each passing night. Training the guardians. The colony of Arden 5 had changed forever. No longer was it just a place of farmers and miners. It had become a sanctuary, a place where alien children played in human homes, where laughter echoed in both human and alien voices. Yet with this honor came a heavy weight. The people knew that if the fiercest warriors of the galaxy trusted them, then the danger that awaited must be greater than anyone imagined. The first weeks were filled with confusion. The humans had no guide, no plan. They only had their natural instinct to protect. At first, they tried to treat the alien children as if they were fragile human children. They gave them food, told them stories, taught them games. But soon they realized that these young ones were different. Their bodies were tougher, their senses sharper. Some could lift heavy tools with ease, while others could hear whispers from across the street. This frightened some colonists. How can we guard them if they are stronger than us? A farmer asked. They will outgrow us, they will not need us. But others saw it differently. We are not here because of strength, the village elder said. We are here because of heart. We protect, because it is who we are. That is what the Zorath saw in us. Soon the colony began to change. They built shelters reinforced with steel. They dug tunnels for escape. They posted watchtowers around the village. Humans who once swung hammers for mining now stood guard with rifles. Women who once carried baskets now trained their hands with first aid. Children of Arden 5 were told, "These young ones are not strangers, they are family now. Protect them as you would your own." The Zorath did not leave their children completely without guidance. A few warriors remained behind, towering shadows that walked the edge of the colony. Their eyes watched with silent judgment, but they did not interfere. When asked why, their leader simply said, "They are yours to protect. We will not teach you how. This must be your way." Among the colonists was a man named Daniel. He had once been a soldier in the Terran fleet, but after the wars he left, tired of blood. He came to Arden 5 seeking peace, wanting nothing more than quiet fields and a simple life. Yet fate had brought him to this moment. Daniel became the first true guardian. He gathered the colonists and spoke plainly. "We cannot protect them with weapons alone. We must learn how they think, how they feel. We must be more than guards. We must be teachers, parents, friends. Because when danger comes, it will not only be our guns that stand between them and death, it will be our bond with them." Daniel began to train both humans and alien children. The morning started with drills, running through fields, learning how to move quietly, how to hide when danger came. The children learned discipline but also trust. They learned that when Daniel raised his hand, they listened. When he called out, they followed. At first, the alien children resisted. They were proud even at a young age. They hissed and growled, testing the patience of the humans. But slowly, they softened. They saw that Daniel never raised his hand in anger, never gave up on them. Even when they failed, he stood by their side. And when he smiled, they could feel the truth. He was not their master, he was their protector. The other colonists followed his example. Farmers taught alien children how to plant seeds. Miners taught them how to carve stone. Mothers told them stories by firelight. Human children shared toys and games at night. The alien young slept side by side with humans. The line between species began to blur. But training was not only for the children, it was for the humans too. Daniel pushed them harder than they had ever been pushed. "We are the wall between them and the darkness," he said. "If we fall, they fall, so we will not fall." The colonists learned to fight together. They built traps in the forests, created signals with lights. They practiced evacuations, carrying children on their backs. They turned from ordinary settlers into guardians. Every night when the stars filled the sky, Daniel would stand on the watchtower, his eyes searching. The horizon. He knew something was coming. He could feel it in his bones, one evening. As the sun dipped low and painted the sky red, one of the Zorath warriors approached Daniel. The giant alien looked down at him, his voice like rolling thunder. "You are not like the others," he said. Daniel stayed quiet, waiting. The warrior continued, "You have the heart of a protector. Our kind respects strength, but your kind, you have something more? Perhaps that is why the galaxy fears you. You fight not for power, but for love." Daniel said nothing at first, then finally whispered, "We fight because life is worth protecting, no matter whose it is." The warrior bowed his head, a gesture rare for a Zorath. "Then perhaps we chose well," he said, before walking back into the shadows. But even as training continued, whispers of danger grew louder. Strange signals reached the colony's radios. Unfamiliar ships were seen on the edge of human space. Daniel knew these were not random signs. The enemy spoken of by the Zorath leader was drawing near, and soon the Guardians would be tested. The rising threat. The colony of Arden 5 had grown quieter in the weeks that followed. By day, children played under the watch of human guardians. By night, the villagers trained and stood guard. Yet behind every laugh and every warm fire there was fear. Daniel felt it most of all. The calm before a storm was never truly calm. It carried weight, like the air before lightning splits the sky. The Zorath had spoken of a coming shadow, but no one had seen it yet. Still, strange things began to happen. The radios caught broken signals, whispers in languages not of human design. Farmers reported seeing flashes in the distant sky, like stars falling where no star should be. At night, the youngest of the alien children woke screaming, whispering words their parents had left behind. "They are coming." Daniel stood on the watchtower every evening, his rifle across his back, his eyes searching the horizon. He felt the colony was changing. The people were no longer simple settlers. They had hardened. They moved with purpose. They carried not only their own hopes but the future of two species. Still, the weight of what lay ahead pressed heavily on his chest. The first real sign came when a mining team never returned. They had gone into the hills to gather ore, but days passed without a word. A search party went out and returned with broken carts, blood on the dirt, and no bodies. They didn't run. One man whispered, "They were taken." Fear spread quickly through the colony. Some cried out that they should send the alien children away, that the burden was too great. But others shouted back, "We promised. We are guardians now. If we break, then what are we?" The arguments filled the air, voices sharp with panic. Daniel silenced them with a single command, his voice steady. "No one leaves. We protect them until the last breath. That is the promise. That is what it means to be human." That night the skies burned red. Strange ships appeared at the edge of the system, long and twisted, their shapes like knives cutting through the void. They did not fly with grace like the Zorath warships. They moved like predators, slow, patient, circling their prey. The colonists gathered in the square. The alien children huddled among them. The older ones clutched the younger, their glowing eyes wide with fear. The humans had never seen ships like these, but Daniel knew what they meant. "The enemy," he said quietly. "The ones even the Zorath fear." The next day, scouts returned. With grim news, the strange ships had landed far in the hills, but their soldiers were already moving. Shadows with armor like stone, faces hidden behind masks that seemed carved from nightmares. They did not speak. They did not trade. They only advanced, killing all they found. Daniel called for drills to begin. The humans set traps in the forest, dug trenches near the colony, reinforced the steel walls around their homes. Children were hidden underground in the escape tunnels. Guards rotated in shifts, their rifles ready. It was no longer training. It was survival. The Zorath warrior who had stayed with them stepped forward at last. His deep voice shook the ground. "These are the Krail. They do not conquer like us. They consume. They take children first, for they believe young ones hold the strongest energy. If they are not stopped here, your colony will burn. and your kind will follow." The villagers grew pale. Mothers held their children tighter. Some cried silently, but Daniel only nodded. "Then we fight not for victory but for every life behind these walls." The first attack came at night, silent shadows slipping between the trees. The alarms rang, gunfire lit the darkness. The colonists fought hard. Arrows of fire from homemade launchers rained on the enemy. The Krail did not scream, did not flinch. They marched forward without fear, breaking through traps, climbing over walls. For hours the colony held. Daniel fought at the gates, his body moving with the precision of an old soldier. Every shot counted. Every swing of his blade was fueled not by hate, but by duty. Around him farmers and miners stood like soldiers, refusing to fall. Finally, as dawn broke, the enemy retreated back into the forest, leaving bodies scattered across the ground. The humans had survived the first night, but their losses were heavy. 4 villagers were dead, 2 houses burned to ash, and worst of all, the Krail had taken 1 child, a boy who had been playing too close to the edge when the alarm rang. The colony mourned. The alien children wept alongside the human children. It was the first time both races cried as one. The pain was sharp, but it bound them together even tighter. They knew then that the fight was only beginning. Daniel stood before the people, his face hard. "This is only the first wave. They will return stronger, but remember this. We are not fighting alone. We are fighting for them." He pointed to the alien children, their small forms trembling but their eyes burning bright. "If we fall, they fall, and if they fall, then all hope in this galaxy falls with them." The colonists raised their weapons in silent agreement. Fear still lived in their hearts, but something greater had taken root. Resolve, far above. The enemy ships hung in orbit like vultures, waiting, preparing. The fiercest aliens had trusted humans for a reason, and now that reason would be tested in fire. The rising threat had come, and Arden 5 would be the first line of defense. The battle of protection. The sun had barely risen over Arden 5 when the colony prepared for war. The first attack had left scars on their hearts and holes in their defenses, but it had also lit a fire in them. They knew the enemy would return, stronger, fiercer, and determined to break through. Daniel stood at the center of the square, his voice carrying over the crowd. "We are not soldiers, yet today we must fight, like soldiers. We are not conquerors, yet today we must defend like conquerors. We stand not for glory, but for the lives behind these walls. If we fall, the children fall. And if the children fall, then everything we promised is broken." Around him, farmers clutched rifles, miners held axes, mothers sharpened blades, even human children too young to fight carried water and supplies for the defenders, and among them, the alien children stood in silence, their glowing eyes filled with fear and trust. They were the reason, and every human knew it. The day grew tense. Scouts reported enemy movements in the forest. The Krail were gathering. Hundreds, maybe more, their armor dark and heavy, their weapons glowing with a sickly green light. The colonists felt the ground tremble as the enemy approached. The air filled with a cold wind, as if death itself walked closer. Then it began. The Krail poured from the trees like a black tide, silent, relentless. They struck the walls with heavy weapons, smashing steel and wood. Arrows of fire shot into the sky from the colonists. Rifles roared, explosions shook the earth. The battle of protection had begun. Daniel commanded from the gate, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Hold the line. Do not let them through." His rifle blazed, each shot precise, each strike measured around him. The villagers fought with all their strength. Fear turned to fury and despair turned to courage. The Krail were unlike any enemy the humans had known. They felt no pain. They climbed over their own fallen. Their silence was more terrifying than screams. But the humans fought back with heart. Traps hidden in the dirt erupted. Fire pits swallowed enemy soldiers. Ropes snapped and dropped, spiked logs into their ranks. For hours the battle raged. The walls shook. The gates burned. Yet the colony still stood. Sweat and blood covered the defenders, but no one broke. They remembered Daniel's words, "We are the wall," and they became that wall. Inside the tunnels, alien children huddled together. The youngest cried, but older ones whispered softly, "The humans will not let us fall, they will not." Their belief was strong, and it gave strength to those fighting above. But the Krail pressed harder. Their leaders arrived, towering figures clad in black armor, wielding weapons that shattered stone. With every strike, the defenses crumbled. The humans were being pushed back. Then Daniel made a choice. He climbed the gate, his figure clear against the burning sky. He raised his voice so all could hear. "If they want us, they must take us. One by one. They will never touch these children while I breathe." With a roar, he leapt into the fray, leading a desperate charge. The colonists followed. Fear vanished as they saw their guardian risk everything. Miners swung hammers that cracked. Farmers drove blades through the silent enemy. Mothers fought like lionesses protecting their cubs. The humans became more than settlers. More than guardians, they became warriors of the heart. The battle turned into chaos. Bodies fell on both sides. Fire spread through the colony. Smoke filled the air. In the madness, Daniel saw a group of Krail break through, heading for the tunnels. Where the children hid, without hesitation he ran. He reached the entrance just as the enemy closed in. He fought like a man possessed, every strike fueled by the cries of children behind him. Blades cut his flesh. Blood ran down his arms, but he did not stop. He stood like an unmovable rock, protecting the only thing that mattered. At last, with one final push, the humans drove. The Krail back, the enemy retreated into the forest, leaving behind their dead and the echo of silence. The colony still stood, battered but alive. The people gathered in the square, cheering weakly through exhaustion. They had survived the greatest storm yet, but their joy was dimmed when they saw Daniel. His body was broken, his wounds deep. He had fought like no other, but the cost was heavy. As the alien children rushed to him, their glowing eyes filled with tears. He smiled faintly. His voice was soft but strong enough to be heard. "You are safe, that is all that matters, remember. Humans protect always." Then he closed his eyes. The fiercest aliens had feared no enemy, yet it was the sacrifice of a single human that saved their children. The colonists carried Daniel's body with honor, for he had shown them what it truly meant to be a guardian. That night, as fires were put out and wounds were tended, the Zorath warrior who remained bowed before the villagers. His thunderous voice shook the ground. "We have fought countless wars, but today we learned something greater than war. You are humans, and you are protectors beyond compare. Our children live because of you, and for that our blood is in your debt." But even as the people mourned and honored their fallen, the sky still carried the shadow of enemy ships. The Krail were not finished. The battle of protection was only the beginning. The true war was still to come. The turning point, the night after the battle, was heavy with silence. Smoke rose from broken houses. The air still smelled of fire and blood. The people of Arden 5 buried their dead with trembling hands, and among them lay Daniel, the man who had stood as the first guardian. His sacrifice carved itself into every heart, reminding them of the promise they had made. Humans protect, even when the cost is everything. The alien children cried with the human children, and for the first time, the villagers realized there was no difference between them in grief. They were one people now, bound by loss and by love. But grief alone could not save them. The Krail were still out there, stronger and waiting. Their shadow filled the skies, their ships circling like wolves around prey. The Zorath warrior who remained stepped forward, towering over the humans. His voice thundered in the square. "You have proven yourselves. You bled for our children. You fought with more fire than any army. But you cannot stand alone. If you fall, our young will fall. And if our young fall, the Zorath will die with them." The humans looked at him, tired yet unbroken. "Then fight with us," the elder of Arden 5 said, her voice cracked but her spirit burned. "Stand not above us but beside us. We cannot win this war without you, but you cannot win without us either." The warrior was silent for a long moment. His glowing eyes flickered as if weighing the weight of centuries. Then he bowed his head deeply, an act no Zorath had ever given to another race. "Then so it shall be. We will fight as one. And so began the turning point. The next days were filled with preparation. Zorath ships descended once more, not in threat, but in alliance. The fiercest warriors in the galaxy walked among farmers and miners, teaching them how to hold the line. The humans in turn showed the aliens how to care for the wounded, how to feed the young, how to protect without destroying. The training grounds grew alive. Children of both races trained together. Human children taught alien children games that sharpened their reflexes. Alien children taught human children how to climb, leap, and use their sharper senses. Guardianship was no longer a burden of humans alone, it became a shared flame. Daniel's name became a rallying cry. His memory lit the fire in both species. Whenever exhaustion came, whenever fear whispered in the dark, the people spoke his name. Daniel stood, so we stand, and so they did. Scouts soon brought word of the enemy's next move. The Krail were gathering in massive numbers, their ships preparing for a full assault. They will not test us this time, the Zorath leader growled. They will come to crush us in one strike. The humans and aliens looked at each other, fear tightening their chests. But now there was also resolve. On the morning of the attack, the colony no longer looked like a simple settlement. It was a fortress. Walls had been rebuilt with alien steel, traps lined the forests, weapons forged by both human ingenuity and alien strength filled the armories. Guardians stood at every corner ready. When the Krail came, the ground shook with their march. The skies burned as their ships descended. They came not in dozens but in hundreds, black shadows blotting out the light. Their silence was more terrifying than any scream. But the defenders did not falter. They had chosen their path. The battle exploded like thunder. The Krail slammed into the defenses, but this time they were met not only by humans, but by humans and Zorath fighting side by side. Alien warriors wielded blades that glowed like suns, while humans used rifles and clever traps to strike with precision. Together they formed a shield around the children. Daniel's sacrifice lived in every strike. A miner fought beside a Zorath warrior, their movements synchronized. A human mother fired beside an alien father, both protecting children hidden in the tunnels. It was no longer about survival alone. It was about unity, about proving that heart and strength together could stand against darkness. The battle stretched on for hours. The Krail pushed harder, breaking through the first wall. Fire spread, smoke choked the sky. Yet the defenders did not break. Every time the line wavered, a human stepped forward. Every time hope faltered, an alien roared. And slowly something began to change. The Krail, who had never known resistance, began to stumble. Their silence cracked under the relentless shield of unity. Their advance slowed, and for the first time they hesitated. The sight of fragile humans and brutal Zorath standing as one shook even their heartless will. At the height of the battle, the Zorath leader raised his weapon high. His roar shook the heavens. For our children, he bellowed. The humans answered with their own cry. For Daniel, for all of us. The sound echoed across the battlefield, stronger than any weapon. Together they pushed back, step by step. The Krail fell, their black tide breaking against the unyielding wall of guardians. At last, as the sun broke through the smoke-filled sky, the enemy retreated, limping back to their ships, defeated not by strength alone, but by the fire of hearts united. When the dust cleared, the colony still stood scarred but alive. Children emerged from the tunnels, running into the arms of their guardians. The fiercest aliens known to exist looked at the humans with new eyes, no longer as weak protectors but as equals, as brothers and sisters in arms. That day, the galaxy itself shifted. For the first time, the Zorath had fought not alone, but with humans. And for the first time they realized the truth. Strength without compassion is hollow, but when strength and compassion join, no darkness can overcome it. The turning point had come, and from the ashes of battle, a new bond was forged, one that would echo across the stars. Legacy of the Guardians, the battlefield of Arden 5 lay quiet at last. The smoke cleared slowly, revealing broken walls, scorched earth, and the bodies of both friend and foe. But among the ruins stood something greater than destruction. Survival. The colony still lived. The children still breathed. Humanity had kept its promise. When the alien children came out from the tunnels, their small hands reaching for the light, they ran into the arms of the humans who had protected them. Some clung tightly to their guardians, refusing to let go. Their glowing eyes shimmered with tears, but also with something new. Hope. The Zorath warriors, once feared across the galaxy as monsters, now stood silent, watching the fragile humans cradle their young. For the first time, they bowed, not as conquerors, but as grateful parents. One of them spoke in a voice heavy with emotion. "The fiercest may fight with claws and steel, but the bravest fight with their hearts, you humans. You have shown us a strength greater than war." The people of Arden 5 mourned their fallen. They carried Daniel's name like a flame. His sacrifice had become more than a memory. It had become the heart of their unity. A simple soldier, a farmer, a miner, a mother. Each had stood not as individuals, but as guardians, and together they had turned the tide. The Krail ships retreated, but everyone knew they would return one day. The enemy was vast, and Arden 5 was only the first test. Yet now the humans were no longer alone. The fiercest aliens of the galaxy had chosen them not just as protectors of children, but as allies. The Zorath swore their blades would rise alongside human rifles. Their ships would shield human worlds, and in return the humans swore they would always protect the future, no matter whose children it was. Weeks turned into months. The colony rebuilt stronger than before. Walls were reinforced with alien steel. Towers rose high and gardens grew once more. But the greatest change was not in stone or steel. It was in the bond between human and alien. Children of both species played together in the fields, learning each other's games, speaking each other's words. A new generation was growing, one that would not know fear of the other, but trust. Every evening, fires lit the village square, and stories were told. Humans told of Daniel, the man who had given everything. Aliens told of the medic long ago who had saved a child not his own. These stories became the lifeblood of the new guardians. They were not just tales of the past, but lessons for the future. The Zorath leader spoke to the people one night, his deep voice carrying across the flames. "We were the fiercest, but we were blind. We thought strength was all but you humans. You have taught us that true strength is not in the hand that strikes, but in the hand that protects. We feared nothing, yet we feared losing our young. And you, the smallest among us, have shown us there is no greater protector than humanity." "Dear," Elder of Arden 5 answered with equal fire, "and you have taught us that even the fiercest can love, that even the strongest can bow for what is precious. Together, we will guard the children. Together, we will stand against the shadows." And so a pact was forged, not in paper, not in law, but in sacrifice and shared blood. Humans and Zorath became one shield, one promise, guardians of the future. Years later, songs would be sung of that time. Bards across human space would tell of Arden 5, where fragile hands held off the storm. Alien poets would write of humans whose hearts burned brighter than suns. And children, both human and Zorath, would grow up knowing they were safe because of those who had stood together. One day, a Zorath child, now older, approached the grave of Daniel. She placed a small stone at its base, her glowing eyes soft with gratitude. Beside her stood a human boy, her closest friend. He too placed a flower. The girl whispered, "Without you, we would not exist." And the boy nodded. He is gone, but his promise lives in us. That moment became the symbol of everything. Not war, not victory, but the legacy of guardianship. The fiercest aliens had trusted humans, and humans had proven worthy. Together, they had created something greater than empires or armies. Trust. As the stars stretched across the night sky, the people of Arden 5 lifted their eyes upward. They knew darkness would come again. The Krail still waited in the void, but they were no longer afraid, for in their hearts they carried the truth that had saved them. Humans may not be the strongest, humans may not be the fastest, but when the children of any world cry for help, it is humans who will stand. It is humans who will protect, and in that, there is no greater power. Thus, the fiercest aliens of the galaxy found their protectors not in warriors of steel but in fragile beings with unbreakable hearts. And from that day on, wherever children slept under starlight, one promise echoed in every guardian's soul. As long as humanity stands, no child shall fall.